Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. Might not be a quick video because I may ramble a little bit here because I don't really have anything set for this video. But just want to kind of do a almost like a piggyback video to one that Melinda Murphy just put up a little while ago. She was basically just kind of talking about her experience in collecting, just kind of how some things have changed for her and different directions she's gone and stuff like that. And I just thought it was really interesting, and it definitely kind of sparked a lot of memories. I connected with a lot of things that she had mentioned, and it just kind of made me think I just kind of want to ramble about it too, because like I said, she really just kind of sparked that. So yeah, if you don't happen to know Melinda Murphy, which I'm sure most of you would do, but if not, make sure you go over and check out her channel. Awesome person, awesome music collection, the whole nine, and you'll definitely enjoy being a sub to her channel. So there's the link right down below. But yeah, so basically what I want to do here is just kind of ramble for a few minutes about my musical journey, just kind of how I started and the kind of different stages that I went through and kind of what I experienced throughout those stages coming up to where I am today as a collector. So this is in no way advice for people or suggestions. It's really just more so my story, just kind of sharing my story. So I started collecting around 2006-ish, somewhere right around there. So I guess 17, 18 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark. And yeah, like a lot of people, I just kind of, walking through some stores, saw some dollar bins and grabbed a few things. I didn't have any like records from my childhood or high school years because I didn't collect records back then. I was kind of in the cassette phase, and then maybe I had like 4 or 5 records total. But yeah, cassettes, and then going into college, it was CDs and all of that. So I really didn't grab records until adulthood, so to speak. So and when I first started collecting, like I said, the dollar bins were really kind of the major source for records because they weren't on a large scale. They weren't as collectible at that point in time, and you can go into a lot of stores and just find amazing things for $1 a pop. I remember I was right up to about 50 records. It's like maybe a first month or two into my collecting, and I get up to 50 records pretty quick, right? And then I buy some records from a person off of Craigslist, and there happens to be 2 Rolling Stone records in there, and I decided to sell one on eBay. So I sold it, and the person I sold it to said, "Hey, I kind of noticed where you live in Kansas City," which was about 2 hours from where I lived at the time. He said, "There's a show this coming weekend." And long story short, there was a guy that owned a record store, passed away, family didn't want to continue to run the shop, so they were just basically going to sell all of his records or get rid of the inventory, which was 275,000 records, right? And so what they do is they set up this warehouse where they put 100,000 records on tables and just cardboard boxes, nothing alphabetized, no order, just here's 100,000 records. And they open the door at 9 a.m. and on a Saturday, and it's just everything's $1 a piece, right? And you even get these little tickets where you could have a cubby behind the checkout place, so you could take a batch and go drop it off and go back and keep digging and grab all your records at the end. And they did that on that Saturday and that Sunday, and then over the course of the week, all the holes that were made through the digging, they would just simply go to all that inventory and just fill the holes back up. And then next Saturday, they open up the doors again and $1 a piece. And they did that, I think it was for 2 months in a row, for 8 weekends. And I think I went up there 4 or 5 of those weekends. And I mean, I ended up getting about 350, 300, somewhere around there, records throughout that. And so, like, immediately overnight in the course of my first 3 months or so of collecting, all of a sudden I'm at 300, 400 plus records. And the bug just really kind of hit me then, so like right at that point, just a few months into my collecting, all of a sudden, all I'm thinking about all day long is going to record stores. And I'm actually going out and digging and even started looking for stuff on eBay and all of that twice as much as I do now. Let's just put it that way. So I was really, really, really into a very strong digging phase of every time I traveled to a new city for work. I always found the record stores there. I would book an extra half day or whatever a day just to go record shopping. Weekends, the whole thing for me was taking road trips to, whether different towns or neighboring states or whatever. And all I did was I was just digging. Which was fantastic too, because at this point in time, again, we're talking about 16, 17 years ago, it was basically an expectation that every record store you go into, you're going to walk in with $40 and you'll probably walk out with 25, 30 records. Because the dollar bins were so golden. And I mean, just like, for example, some of the stuff that I got in the dollar bin at that Kansas City show where everything was $1, Winger, In the Heart of the Young, sealed LP right there with hype sticker and everything. That was $1 at that show, or not a show, make a sale or whatever. Sweet, same thing. That was $1. And I know there's like over 150 other records I still have in my collection that came from there. But like your typical dollar bin stuff, like your Mr. Mister, this was going to be in $1 or $1.99 bin at the time. Heartbeat City by the Cars, same thing. Billy Joel, The Stranger, same thing. These were consistently albums that you would find for $1 or $1.99 in excellent to near mint condition. So it's just like I'm just kind of grabbing this stuff left and right. And even with that sale that I was talking about, I know nothing about collectability or rarity or anything of that nature. At this first 6 months or year or so, I'm just buying the albums that I like, period. I'm not even concerned about condition on most of them. I'm just buying the stuff that I like. So I know at that Kansas City sale, I must have went past so many gems and grails that it'd make me sick if I could flash back now and actually see what I flipped through at the time, I'm sure. But yes, like I said, that first year, it's just grabbing. And also to the point where in that first year, I kind of get to the point to where even though the dollar bins are so great, I'm starting to see stuff on the top shelf that is also like, these are things that I kind of want. And I'm willing to, as much as I'm fixated on every record should be $1 or $3, excuse me, I kind of started going towards that top shelf too. So at the end of year one, up until about maybe, or kind of just year one going through year 3 and 4, I really started to grab some nicer pieces in my collection that was that really kind of took my collection to the next level above just a dollar bin. So for example, I kind of pulled some of the stuff, and you would find Chris Isaak's Harp Shaped World OG copy. I paid $7 for that at the time. In the Groove Records, I remember that. The Pipettes, We Are the Pipettes. I remember seeing this in a store out in DC when I was on a trip out there for work. $10. And I remember looking at that thinking like, man, $10 for a record, that's a lot for a used record. Like, records are supposed to be $1 to $3. But, luckily I grabbed it. Stuff by the Donnas. Like, I have a complete Donnas collection. Well, with the exception of their first album. The first album I have is a boot. But all the other albums I have by them I have a complete OG collection of them. And every single one was $10 to $12. And the exact same thing at the exact same time. That first year and a half or so that I started collecting, that's when I was grabbing those. So that's kind of the phase that I was in from that year 1 to year 4. Is I'm still hitting the dollar bin, still starting to grab that kind of stuff. Now, kind of maybe going into around that fourth or fifth year is when I start, I guess maybe really feeling like a collector to some degree. So now all of a sudden I find myself like on eBay grabbing stuff like this, which is Alanis Morissette Jagged Little Pill, long before the reissues and everything kind of came out. But that was a $45 record then. And, so we're talking like, maybe 2012-ish, somewhere around there, 2011. And so again, like, to think about paying $45 for a record was like, ooh, I don't know. But I was like, I really want it. I want it to be part of my collection. That's a fantastic album. So, stuff like that, and then stuff like, Danzig, again, not self-titled, but gold stamp promo, the whole nine. Again, I found that for $50 on the shelf at a record store, and it was another one of those, awesome albums, but $50 kind of thing. But that's another thing that made that time period exciting. I mean, even though that felt off, it's just the fact that you could get so much for the dollar back then, and it was just a really kind of exciting time. So I mean, it's really kind of the best way to put it. So from that 4-year mark, like I said, where I'm starting to get maybe some better stuff. Again, I didn't see value at the time. It was just strictly titles. But looking back on it, I was picking up kind of some better stuff. But I'm still hitting the dollar bins. Condition still means nothing to me through all of this stuff. I'm just buying the records that I want. So that's 4 years. And then fast forward about another 10 years. I've acquired what I look at as kind of my musical library. So now we're talking about somewhere around 2015-ish, maybe somewhere in there, 2016-ish. And I decided to kind of enhance my listening experience. I decided to invest a little bit in my stereo setup. So I decided to make like an actual listening area, set up a chair, or hit my speakers to the sweet spot, upgrade my cable, stuff like that. So I'm trying to, enhance my system. And one Saturday, I remember I pulled a copy of Led Zeppelin Houses of the Holy off the shelf, and I put it on my turntable when I'm listening. And there's enough pops and crackles in there where I'm just kind of like, I'm not really enjoying this. So I take it off, put it back on the shelf. And then I pull off Christopher Cross, self-titled, put that on there, and some pops, some crackles, and I'm like, yeah, because I've been investing over the past month or two money into cables and all of this, and now all of a sudden I'm not enjoying the listening because of the pops and crackles. And that's when it hit me. I was like, when I put that Led Zeppelin back on the shelf, I was like, why am I putting this back on the shelf? Like, if I can't pull it out and listen to it and enjoy it because it has too many pops and crackles, why am I putting it back on the shelf? And it was that day when I decided, and I had maybe 4,500 to 5,000 pieces at the time. I'm like, I'm going to go through every single album in my collection. I'm going to play test a little bit of it here and there. I'm going to look at the cover, the condition, everything. If it's not up to what I consider to be good condition, I'm purging it. I'm getting rid of it. And I went through every single album in my collection. And I ended up pulling out like, I don't know what it was, 400, 450, something like that, albums that were just purged. And they weren't like junk or anything. I mean, it was a lot of just like VG plus stuff that a lot of people would be happy to have. It just, whatever this new standard was that I had set in my mind, these just didn't quite reach that. So sold all those albums, and I used the trading and selling and everything else just to buy a lot of those albums back, but to get like near mint copies, or much, much better copies. And so at this phase, it's strictly about condition. Again, this is up to this started about 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. This was strictly about condition at this phase. So I was doing things like, I had OG pressings of Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 by Guns N' Roses that were in solid VG plus condition. I got rid of those, and I ended up grabbing some reissues of both those albums. I got rid of a lot of original Kiss stuff, and I got reissues. And so I remember even a lot of people in the VC were saying at the time, like, dude, you're getting rid of like the OG pressings for getting reissues and stuff. And all I was saying was, I don't care. Condition is all that matters right now. I don't care about pressings. I don't care about, I want my collection to be just minty mint. And so that was what kind of took place for about, I said that started 8 or 9 years ago, and that was pretty much what it was till about 4 or 5 years ago. So for about 3 years or so, that was kind of the focus for 2 or 3 years. But then that about 5 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark, and I'm kind of jumping around with years and stuff now, that was kind of where, yes, I love where this condition focus has taken my collection overall, but now I'm getting that bug to where, okay, I do want OG pressings. I do want gold stamp promos. I do want white label promos. I do want Japanese pressings and MoFi pressings and half speed remasters and all this type of stuff. So then what I started doing was looking for a lot of upgrades with things that I have. Where oh great, I found a gold stamp promo, so I'm gonna get rid of my other very nice pressing. Or I found a Japanese, like in my recent video I showed, I got a Japanese pressing of Self-Titled Heart, so I got rid of my near mint copy of my US pressing of Heart. And so that's kind of been more of my focus on how I kind of build my collection right now. But condition is always of the utmost, whether you're talking about audiophile or you're talking about a $5 whatever that you find. Condition is absolute top priority for me. I don't accept any pops, crackles within albums that I play. I mean, I'm okay maybe if you hear some on the dead wax, but once the music kicks in, if I hear any pops or crackles, or it's a good chance that record's going to get booted. Even like with this, I pulled this out for an example because I got this just a few weeks ago at the record show. Oingo Boingo, Only a Lad. Been wanting this album for some time now, and when I first picked it up, I saw it and I was like, yes, there it is. But then that crease right there on the corner, you got that crease and that little bit of ring wear right down there. Those two things almost made me pass on this album. And I remember I grabbed it and I kind of held it for a while and I was like, I don't know, well, we'll see. But then I kind of looked at it and I thought, like, I don't see this all the time. It's a gold stamp promo, okay, we'll grab it. In the future, if I happen to find one that is absolute perfect without that corner, I can always replace it. And the album itself is like fantastic. It's excellent plus condition. But yeah, even like that can be enough to make me potentially shy away from, especially a basic standard album. That's kind of how picky I've gotten within the condition. Now, you'll have some instances too, like when I thought about this a moment ago, I thought, what's the worst conditioned album in my entire collection? And outside of two that I keep strictly for sentimental reasons, I don't necessarily consider those part of my collection. But within my collection, the worst album that I have, as far as condition-wise, if I get it flipped right side, is this one here, which is Black Sabbath Paranoid. And this is a white label promo, as you can see there. And the vinyl is actually excellent minus condition. So, I mean, the vinyl is very, very clean, very, very nice, and plays perfect. And even the cover doesn't have any creases, no seam splits or anything. It's just the ring wear. So, but this is actually the worst album that you will find flipping through my collection. And so, of course, with something like this, a white label promo of an album like this, you're going to be much more accepting of, having some flaws and things like that. But yeah, even kind of just going through my collection right now, you would not be able to find two other albums that look like this. You wouldn't find those in my collection. Or even amongst my grails, you wouldn't find those. Because that condition is just the absolute utmost important thing to me. So yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now in my collection, in my collecting, if you will. Now, so one of the ways that maybe it's changed how I go about buying records, and maybe why I don't dig as much and as hard as I used to, is because frankly it's not worth my time when it comes to going to flea markets and digging through dollar bins at every shop you go into, and it just really is not worth my time. I just kind of know with the level of my collecting, kind of, I shouldn't say level because it sounds like there's something that's good and something that's bad. With where I'm at in my collecting, there's just not a lot that I'm gonna find, I know, in those places. Now, granted, over the course of my collecting, yeah, I'm probably gonna miss a gem here or there or something like that. I mean, sure, but the amount of time and the amount of records I have to flip through to potentially hit that gem that I'm really looking for, going through dollar bins and flea markets and stuff like that, it's just not worth it to me at all. So even if I go to a record show, I may see a table set up and the guy has 7 boxes of records and I see they're packed kind of tight. They're no sleeves on any of them. I can just look at the top of the box and see that most of them have kind of a general wear across the top of the spines and everything, and it's like $5 a piece or 3 for 10. Like I'm just not gonna spend time. I'm not gonna waste time digging through those albums. There's probably a ton of stuff in there that people are gonna grab for great prices that they're gonna take home. It's gonna make them completely and totally happy, and that's awesome. I just don't think there's things that I'm gonna take home out of there that's gonna make me happy. So yeah, even at record shows, I'm looking for people that have nicer table setups, that have their stuff in sleeves. You know, I feel like the first 15 or 20 albums I flip through is going to give me a good idea about what's probably at that table or not. And so I get picky about sellers that way. There's even a couple guys with our local show here, like one guy that comes up from Arkansas. He is the first table I go to every time I go to the show. It's like before I spend $1 anywhere else, I go check out his table because I know he's going to bring solid stuff. Many times he brings stuff that I don't like, but when he brings stuff that I like, it is amazing. And he always has a separate rare box that he has set off to the side. Great pricing. It's like you've earned my first look every single time I come to the show. There's a second guy too that actually lives here locally that's the exact same way. It's just like he brings heat every single time. And I know if I end up paying $60 for a record or $90 for a record or something like that, it's going to happen at one of their 2 tables. So that's kind of where I am from a collecting standpoint at this stage in my collecting. So as I said in the beginning, you know, this is not to tell anybody that this is how you should do it or what you should buy or shouldn't buy. It's just whatever makes you happy at the time, that is what you go with. And always give yourself the space that when you want to go a different direction, or you know, your interest kind of changes, that you allow yourself to change with it. I mean, it's just like driving a truck down the road. Like, you know, you shift and you have to kind of keep the car on the road, so to speak. I mean, Lord knows the day I pulled that Led Zeppelin off the shelf that I was telling you about earlier, the Houses of the Holy, like that was a day when, I mean, I just took a complete right turn. I mean, it's just like everything about collecting, just the rules completely changed for me on that day, and I'm sure it'll do it again at some point in time. So anyway, yeah, thanks for letting me ramble, VC. I know it's a pretty kind of a long video here, but it's just kind of something I wanted to do, and appreciate you guys watching as always, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.